Have you ever been on a sales call saying all the right things, handling every objection with ease, and yet you can feel it? They're not leaning in. They're not fully bought in. They're hearing you, but they're not really listening. Or maybe you're a manager. You explain the vision clearly. You lay out the plan. Your team nods along. The slides are perfect, but nothing changes. Or maybe you're a business owner with a great product, strong marketing, solid systems, but the deals are still stalling. Right? Promotions, maybe even if you're a manager, go to somebody else. Your ideas die in rooms where you know that you're the smartest person there. But here's the thing. I guarantee you it's not what you are saying. It's not your sales script. It's not your marketing. It's not your product. And it's definitely not because you need more tactics. It's because you are trying to play the manipulation game without understanding the influence game. And see, 99% of business professionals don't even realize that there's a difference. So in this video, I'm going to tell you and show you how you're not actually bad at sales or leadership. You're actually bad at influence. And the difference is going to change everything for you. Now, if you don't know me, my name's Christian Jack. I closed over $100 million in deals in my first 4 years in business. And I realized that everybody had all of this ass backwards in sales and marketing. World leaders don't actually market anything. They influence the market. The most influential icons in human history didn't sell. They just shaped perception, they shaped meaning, they shaped identity, and therefore the world just naturally moved with them. After investing over $1 million myself into studying influence, human behavior, psychology, sales, I realized something super frustrating is that everything out there was either too philosophical to use or too clinical for the person who just wants to win. So I made it my mission to simplify and demystify the most powerful influence training in the world so that sales and leadership and business ownership just becomes a byproduct and not a struggle. So let's make something painfully clear. Sales is a transactional skill. Influence is psychological leverage. And those are not the same thing. Transactional skill says, here's my offer, here's the value, here's the close, right? Psychological leverage says, here's how I want your brain to interpret this interaction. See, sales just pushes information, whereas influence shapes perception. And perception is what actually moves behavior. But here's the problem. Most people think results follow clarity. If you just explain it better, if you just handle the objection better, if you just present stronger, if you say it more clearly, more simply, then people will move. But here's the problem, and you've seen it time and time again. By the time somebody hears your logic, their nervous system has already decided how they feel about you. Before the content, before there's ever any context, before you even say a single word, there's meaning. Before logic, there is perception. And perception is where the battlefield is, and it's where the battle is won. You don't win by adding more words. You win by controlling the frame that those words sit inside. Let me give you a very simple example of this. If I say, this is an expensive investment, your brain reacts one way. But if I say, this is the least expensive mistake you could make compared to the cost of staying stuck, now your brain reacts completely differently. It's the same product, same price, completely different frame. Influence is all about frame control. Sales is just a feature control. And most people are masters at features, but complete amateurs at frames. Now, I will say there is a villain in this story that I've fallen trapped to myself, the 16-year-old guru of the week, right? The guy telling you, just use this closing line, or just use this tonality trick, or just use this objection reframe, right? Use this hack, and it works for about 6 days because tactics expire, especially as they sell more people into their program and it becomes more and more common. The internet trains you to chase tactics. That's what the dopamine loop is all about. But tactics without leverage are just hollow. Principles create leverage, and leverage adds weight. And that's why some people close effortlessly while others just grind for every deal. It's not about effort. It is about influence architecture. So here's how you know whether you are operating in a sales frame or in an influence frame. Ask a simple question after a conversation. Did that feel like pushing a boulder uphill, or did it feel like gliding downhill? If it felt uphill, you were convincing. If it felt downhill, you were influencing. Convincing requires immense energy from you. Influence just redistributes the energy that's already there. Convincing pushes, influence pulls. And I guarantee you, if you just look at physics, pull always wins long term. Now, there's another important thing to know here, that your prospect isn't evaluating your offer logically first. Their caveman brain is scanning for a threat. Is this safe? Is this aligned? Is this person stable? Am I being pressured? Am I being convinced? Am I being judged? And if their ancestral wiring detects any kind of pressure, all the logic in the world no longer matters. You cannot outlogic survival instinct. That's why influence is about lowering resistance without lowering authority. You don't overpower their resistance. You just completely dissolve it. Now, the question off the back of all this is, what does real influence look like? I'll tell you, there's 4 things to look for. All genuine influence will always do these 4 things. Real influence controls context before content, creates certainty without force, reduces threat without reducing authority, and makes a decision feel internally chosen by the other person. Because when somebody says yes under pressure, they often regret it. But when somebody says yes under alignment, they will defend it with their life. And that's the difference. Sales will just get you a temporary agreement, but influence gets you long-term commitment. So here's the belief that you need to install in order to use this. You are not a persuader. You are a perception architect. That's a huge difference. Persuaders argue, architects design. Persuaders push, architects position. And when you're able to shift from how do I convince them to how do I shape the way that they see this, everything changes. Because humans don't resist decisions. They make decisions all the time. They resist a loss of control. So if you can guide their perception in a way that preserves their autonomy, their decision and their movement to something completely different they've never done before will feel completely natural. Now, the uncomfortable truth that you don't want to hear. Smart people struggle more than average communicators because smart people believe logic should win. I get it. That was me. If it makes sense, they'll say yes. But here's the problem. Humans don't decide based on what makes sense. Otherwise, we'd just be robots. They decide based on what is of significance to them. How does this affect me? How does this elevate me? Does this protect me? Does this align with who I believe I am? Influence speaks to identity. Sales, again, just speaks to features. And in that battle, identity wins every single time. Here's another problem. It's that you know you're the smartest person in the room, and yet your ideas are the ones that die. It's clearly not a competence problem. It is something else entirely. Because being right doesn't make you influential. Being aligned with how humans make decisions does. And history proves this over and over again. The most influential figures were not always the most educated. They were the most attuned to public perception. They understood psychology before psychology even had a name, right? Now, I said before, there's a huge difference between transactional skill and psychological leverage. So let's dive just a little bit deeper into it. I want you to write this down. Transactional skill looks like mastering a script or objection handling or tonality or phrases or, negotiation tactics. Psychological leverage is frame control. It's context engineering. It's identity alignment, tension calibration, and even just certainty projection. Whereas one is mechanical, another is architectural. One feels like effort, the other feels like gravity. And gravity doesn't try, it just pulls. And when you finally get this, your deals, your leadership, your promotions, your raises, your business will accelerate. Your team will follow faster. Buyers will trust you even deeper because you are no longer trying to sell them something. You are helping them see something. And you know how the saying goes, right? Seeing is believing. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, this sounds cool, but I still need to know what to say. And yes, words matter. But words without frame are noise. You can find the words anywhere on the fucking internet. But if the frame is wrong, the best script in the world completely collapses. But with the correct frame, the words become irrelevant. That's why a confident person can read from a terrible script and still outperform a socially anxious person with the perfect script. You've seen it before. So when you truly understand influence, you don't memorize scripts, you start operating based on principles. And principles are adaptable across time and history and people and offers and businesses and markets and all that sort of stuff. Now, if you don't learn the principles, if you don't learn influence, nothing changes. You're just going to stay on the same treadmill you've been on for who knows how long, chasing the next tactic, the next method, the next framework, the next guru, and wondering why nothing actually sticks. Meanwhile, somebody less intelligent, less qualified, less experienced keeps winning where you're losing and running circles around you because they understand something that you don't. It's just perception. And perception, real influence principles compound. They don't collapse. So when you master influence, you stop chasing You stop convincing, you stop over explaining, you stop forcing, and instead you start designing conversations. You start shaping context instead of chasing content. You control frames, and decisions feel inevitable, not in a pressured way, just inevitable. That is real leverage. That's real influence. That is real power. So to wrap this up, you are not bad at sales or leadership or communication. You've just been playing the wrong game. Sales is visible. Influence is invisible. Sales is tactical, influence is structural. And structure, I guarantee you've seen this so many times before, structure beats tactics every time. And once you see that, the next time you walk into a room, you're not going to ask, what do I say? You're going to ask instead, what frame am I creating? And that question, I hope just as much as it has changed everything for me and my members and my students, I hope that changes everything for you. Now, if you found this content useful and you want to master the real game, not the tactic treadmill, join my free school community, The Game of Influence. The link is down below in the description, because information might just spark this new level of awareness in you, but proximity is what installs skill. So if you're serious about becoming somebody that's impossible to ignore, get the proximity. I'll see you inside.